Testing one, two, three. Okay, guys, intermission is over. Please come back to your seats. The panel is about to start. Awesome. Thank you here. Hope everybody got a lot of waffles and eggs. It's more like a brunch now. Cool. So we're about to start the next panel. I'm going to set the scene. So success in tech is usually defined as a very linear and one-dimensional thing. If you're not working at like a big tech company as a software engineer specifically, then people feel like, oh, I failed. But there's many, yes, don't get me wrong, that is one way of success. But success has many paths and avenues that you can take. And unless you're aware of those paths and avenues, you're not going to think about diverting to other roads that you may be more suited for. So we have some lovely panelists here who have taken some, for lack of better words, non-traditional paths, and I wanted to explore their journeys and stories of how they ended up finding these opportunities. So if you guys feel like these are paths that also suit you, you can do what they did or venture out into other roads. So I liked for all my panelists to introduce themselves, give a fun fact, and tell them a little bit about what you do. Anybody can start, but I guess we can go this way to make it structured. Start with her.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Blossom. I'm a third-year computer science major at UIC, also minoring in business analytics. A fun fact about me is that my first trip out of the country was to Germany. I was actually 1 years old. Don't really remember much, but yeah. And currently, I work as a growth marketing intern at a startup called Sameem that basically allows you to send TikTok sounds to your friends over text messages. But yeah.
Awesome. Everybody give it up for Blossom. Remember, we talked about parallel networking, so definitely, just because she's a student, make sure you're paying close attention to things that you're doing because you can easily implement some of the same things. Awesome. Zachary.
Yeah, so my name is Zachary Hashi. I'm a data scientist. I'm not a scientist, but I work at AbbVie. AbbVie is a pharmaceutical company. Basically, what I do is just help the company improve their products through data, machine learning, things like that. On the side, I'm also a freelancer. I work with startups and small businesses, improve their business and improve their products, processes through data analytics. Yeah.
Awesome. Everybody give it up for Zachary. And last but not least, Emmanuel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I am a software engineer, consultant, and also a startup founder. A fun fact about me is I visited every Scandinavian country.
Very interesting. We don't have, wait, where is Scandinavia? Okay.
So that's pretty much Denmark, Norway, Sweden, places like that.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay. We love that. So the first question, so this is how we're going to do it, right? First, we're going to talk about startups, all about startups. Then we're going to talk about freelancing and contracting. And then lastly, we're going to talk about being a founder. So for the first question about startups, how was your experience like working at a startup? What was the culture like? And if you've had experience in startups and big tech, what would you say the differences are? Anybody can go up. Oh, also, not everybody has to answer every question. So if you feel like you don't have to add on, you don't have to. Okay, I know you're about to talk. Go ahead.
All right, so I can go ahead. I've interned at 3 startups, and I'm a third year, so around like 1 startup each year I've been in college. And I would say, and also I had big tech experience this summer into that big tech company in Seattle. I would say the main differences, 2 main differences for me would be 1, impact. When you're at a startup, it's less people on the team, so any project you work on directly impacting the company is usually more of a big impact as opposed to working at a big tech company and working on like one specific team, e.g. like Google, probably just working on Google Maps, that's like a little bit smaller, as opposed to working on the whole product. And another difference would just be the soft skills you kind of use. So I feel like with startups, you're more of wearing multiple hats. your roles. Like you might be assigned one role, but you're definitely gonna do other things just because like we limited people to do, tasks. But at big tech companies, it's more specialized. You're a software engineer. You're probably never going to be designing a flyer for an event. That's probably right for like marketing and design. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would really talk about in terms of like me working as a freelancer with startups. So I would say it's a very fast-paced environment. It's a good way to learn things very fast. One of the things that I think would be really like very crucial is documentation, because you may be the only one who really knows what you're doing, compared to like when you work at companies who have a lot of people. So documenting everything, and also it's a good way to learn a lot of skills and grow your skills.
So, as a consultant who's done engineering for big tech, well, depending on what you consider big tech, and also the CEO of a startup, I feel like the biggest difference is from a leadership perspective versus an employee's perspective. It kind of goes hand in hand. As a leader, you want to have a way you can communicate your passion for your startup towards your employees so they can buy into what's happening. And in a startup perspective, it's so small, you want it to feel like a very close-knit team, but the ability to communicate that can be very difficult. Versus if you're an employee, does your leadership team make you feel welcome enough to be passionate about what you're building, or who you're interacting with, or who the direct end client is? So that's a dynamic that's very difficult from both perspectives. But since I have been in both perspectives, it gives me the ability to really drive that home on both sides.
Awesome. So we had a lot of couple gems, so I'll summarize them up. So from what Emmanuel was just talking about was, if you're working at a startup, you need to feel motivated to work there, it seems like. Because you're going to wear many hats, as Blossom said, and you're going to have a lot more impacts. So goes into my next question is, which one do you prefer, and how do you feel like the work-life balance is as startups, considering that you have a lot more impact and you have to wear a lot more hats than you would at a big tech company?
So I don't have I'm not a founder of any startup. Obviously, I've worked at startups. I would say that the work-life balance, at least from what I've heard and what I've sort of witnessed, is that for startups, it's usually not your typical 9 to 5. Usually working later hours, early mornings, trying to meet deadlines, and it's a lot going on because you're also a founder, creating your product, still trying to pitch your idea to investors or venture capitalists to get funding. So it is a lot, as opposed to just working a typical 9 to 5. And once it's 5, you're clocked out and you're done, unless you decide to work more. But I would say work-life balance is more it's friendlier when you're working at 9 to 5. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now I want to get into some actionable steps. Let's say someone in this audience is like, wow, I like to work for a startup. What are some things they can do right now to find some opportunities to start working or interning for a startup?
My startup is looking for interns for content creators and marketers. So the first thing you could do is connect with me right after this. I think that's a good place to start. Other than that, there's definitely places for college students to get internships. I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with Handshake, but my company does use that to find interns. So you could definitely, if you're on there, you can work similarly to how LinkedIn works. You can use that to find jobs, opportunities, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I would say if you're not on LinkedIn, just get in on LinkedIn, right? And the way I usually is just reach out to people who are founders and see and ask them if there is opportunity.
Yeah, definitely just reach out to founders. Probably identify a problem they may have, see how you can proffer a solution. And also another job board that I will highlight is Well Found, which is just like Indeed, but just for startups. Most of the time, they're not usually paid. They might give you equity in the company because they're startups, but that's where I got one of my jobs.
Awesome. And How is preparing for an interview for a startup any different from preparing for an interview at a big tech company?
So when I interview individuals, it's more so about, let's say I'm interviewing an intern, it's more so about what you've done within your college community and how that can correlate to what we're interviewing you for. So let's say you're in marketing, you have to be good at communication, you have to be good at spreading the message, you have to be good at analyzing trends. So maybe if you have your own portfolio of different things you've done, I know TikTok is really popular, and that's one of the way where we reach our target audience. So if you're a content creator on TikTok, or if you make content for companies or small companies in the past, or even your own passion projects, you can add that to a portfolio. Especially at a startup stage, we're looking for people who are passionate. That's one of the most important things. So if you can show passion within yourself, within the community you're already in, that will translate very well within the interview. On the other hand, in a big tech company, it's definitely more about experience, the internships you have had in the past, and what type of skills you can show directly in the interview. So the biggest difference, I would say, it's in big tech, it's more about what you can do, versus in startups, it's more about how you can communicate and show and express what you can do, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Before I pivot into freelancing and contracting, I have one specific question for Blossom, which is, what made you want to intern for those startups that you interned for? What drew you to them that you knew, okay, this will be kind of cool, this won't burn me out?
So I've interned at two ed tech startups, so educational technology catered towards like K-12 and also college students. And then the third one was like I said, it was like a Gen Z focused app, right, to send TikTok sounds over text messages. I would say what drew me to the companies was just impact. I say all the time that my master vision in life is to use the opportunity I have to create more opportunities for other people. So, when those apps are able to do those things, I'm like more encouraged to work there. And also for the job I'm currently working at now, that's for a Gen Z focused app, the job posting was very intriguing. Like they said stuff like, if you don't know who Kai Cenat is, don't apply for this role. If you don't know Ice Spice calls her fans the Munchkins, don't apply for this role. So obviously I do know those things. So I'm like, okay, they're definitely looking for someone like me. They would value my, intelligence. So yeah.
Awesome, dope. Now we're going to pivot a little bit to the freelancing part. And actually, I found Zachary on Upwork, which is a freelancing platform, which made me find him on LinkedIn and be like, pull up. So, Zachary, in your own words, can you describe what freelancing is to our audience? And then also, how did you first get your start in freelancing?
Yeah, sure. So freelancing is actually a kind of self-employment, I would say, but it's totally different, from the 9-to-5 job. So you can pretty much work wherever you want, anytime you want, but you can also have multiple clients. I started my freelancing journey in the mid of pandemic. But before that, I was always like doing, a couple of side hustle business, which failed ultimately. And then I was like thinking that you're a data scientist, and there's a lot of businesses out there that you can help actually improve their products or processes through data and automation. And that's when I kind of started, and I was like, oh, okay, how should I start this? And then, I have to like actually list all of the freelancing marketplace. Some of them are really like very competitive, like TopTal, which really takes like top 3% of the entire world, and it's a very rigorous process. And if you get there, then yeah. They actually recruited me once, but I didn't really go through it because they ask a lot of like very like heavy algorithm questions, things like that. In my area, but I was able to really like create my profile on Upwork, and after that, there's a lot of people at Upwork, and it's very competitive, and people are really competing like very low rate, but you have to like make sure that your profile is really like very optimized, and you have to know like your target audience. So mainly what I work with is just startups, right, who don't have people with data mindset, or are looking for to automate data or data-driven approach or things like that, or building dashboards. So that's my niche. But I also do just on cohort analysis. So, mostly how can you like understand, products and how they interact with customers. If you're losing customers, I'm your guy. I can find like how and why. So that's basically what I do, and that's how I get into it. And most of the time, actually, 66% of the time, startups reach out to me directly via Upwork, which is really nice compared to like the other statistics I see. So yeah, that's all that is. All you need is just basically a skill that you can sell, and then how can you like stay out of the crowd, right? Pick a niche and optimize your profile, and then try to find clients.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I also want to ask a little bit about data science. As computer science majors, we're often only taught about software engineering. So, like, give me a little color how you got into data, and how can students also get into data, or why should they get into data?
Yeah. So my background is actually statistics, and I know that most of you don't really like statistics. That's just my experience wherever I go. Even people in mathematics, really hate statistics. So my bachelor and master's were in statistics. I really love numbers, and that's how I really got into data science. And what it's all about is just like how can we, improve the world? What do we see? There's always errors that is happening, and how can we really like minimize that with data, right? So if you have a business and you have products and you're tracking data, if you are not like identifying pain points through data, I think most of the time like the business really won't really do that well. So that's basically what data science is. Just use data to improve, right? Whether that's like machine learning or but from my experience, people will tell you a lot about, okay, it's very scary. You have to build a very sophisticated model and explain that to someone who is non-technical. What does this mean? But to be honest, most of the time is actually very simple methodologies. But the most important aspect that I see really very useful as being a data scientist is how to communicate, right? Those numbers to business leaders. So if someone is non-technical, instead of just saying mean, right, which we mostly know, you should say like average, so because they're not technical. So that's what I try to use terminologies that are very familiar with, the person, so that you don't intimidate them with mathematics or things like that.
Awesome. I'm going to transition over to Emmanuel, and then both of these questions are going to be about both contracting and freelancing. Emmanuel, in your own words, what is contracting and how did you get into it?
So contracting can be looked at through two different lenses. So the first lens is very similar to freelancing, in the sense of you find a company, whether you reach out or they reach out to you, and they want to have you do a specific work for them for a stated amount of time, whether that's 6 months, 18 months, things of that nature. Versus the other type of contracting, which I do more specifically these days in my free time, is social contracting. And by that, I mean I have my own consulting firm. We have our portfolio. We have businesses that we worked on, how we've helped the type of things that we've built for them. And if your marketing for that consultant is good enough, individuals, whether it's small companies, mom and pop shops, anybody who wants an app or a website can then reach out to you. You then give them back a contract, whatever your fees are and things of that nature. And those are the two type of contracting that I've been involved with.
Okay, cool. So if somebody were to try to break into freelancing or contracting today with no portfolio, how do they get their first client? How do you show that credibility without having that prior experience?
Sure, that's something that I've had trouble with myself, but I think I got a pretty good game plan to how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is have pet projects, something that you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be for a company that's already listed on the NASDAQ or anything. It could just be your own personal project, whatever you want to build, something that's interesting to you. Try to keep it small, but try to keep it focused on a specific skill that you're trying to then market to potential companies that want to hire you as a freelancer. So for me right now, I focus primarily on mobile development. So I build a lot of small apps. When I first got started, the first thing I ever built was a game familiar to Flappy Bird. I'm not sure how old everyone here is, so you may or may not remember that game. So I built something very similar to that. It was called RetroFlow. So basically, it works the same way. Instead of a bird, you're a spaceship. Instead of those columns, they're asteroids, and you just try to tap and get behind that. So I built something like that. Realized mobile app game development isn't for me, but I did learn the skill of mobile app development specifically. So from there, I'm able to build iOS apps, Android apps, build a small portfolio, small projects I worked on, and then add that. From those pet projects, you can build your own portfolio from that. And if you can market that, hopefully you can market yourself, and either a company comes to you or you have something valuable when you reach out to a company.
Yeah, I think you already covered everything. So I would say like, do self projects and be specific, right? So let's say, you're very good at web design. Instead of just like building anything about web design, just be specific. Maybe just design a website about for dentists, right? And then that now you're specific, and if a dentist is looking for a web design, now you tailor it for that audience, right? So now you're very specific. So now you kind of stay out of the crowd. So I would say like scale be specific, right? Solve for a specific problem for a specific audience. So now, that would be a very good strategic way, and that's what I've been doing right early on. But other than that, I would say also like things that I'm doing right now is just like employing an agency to kind of find clients for me, things like that. So that would be like if you afford it, but I would say definitely create a GitHub, build some portfolio and be as specific as you can, right, for a specific audience.
Awesome. So it sounds like, one, know who your niche is. If you try to cater to everybody, you cater to nobody. And two, start off with building some projects. Blossom, as a student, what are some of the projects that you have built that helped you bolster your resume?
So I'd say, so I actually have two portfolios, one for like software engineering and then one for marketing, because that's also something I'm interested in. So for my software engineering projects, I'll be very honest, most of them are school projects that I've taken throughout most of my CS classes, and probably just add one or two features, or probably like just add an interface or like GUI just to make it more usable, because most of my projects are back-end focused for my classes. And for my marketing portfolio, it's just a bunch of videos I've made and pictures. So I've had like social media chair positions for different orgs at my school. So like NSBE, I'm also the African Student Association at my school. So I just had a bunch of those posts, also videos and reels that I made for those orgs. And I think that was about it. And that was how I landed like my first marketing role. So, yeah.
Awesome. And where is it like a portfolio website? Is it on GitHub?
So I do have some projects on my GitHub, not that updated, but my the content portfolio is just a Google Drive. Everything's on there, and I just linked it at the top of my resume. So where you typically have like your number and your email and your LinkedIn, I just another slot for a portfolio and linked it there.
Cool. So it's obtainable. You don't have to have a whole website. You can put everything in Google folder and link your resume up with what you say you're doing so they can actually see that it exists. I want to transition back. What are some of the things you wish you knew when you first started freelancing / contracting?
If I could start all over, I would draft my own contracts. That would probably be the first thing I would do. And by that, I mean, because I used to be on Upwork as well, not currently, but on Upwork, some people may try to lowball you. Some people may try to have you work on things that are outside of the scope of what you all agreed on, things of that nature. So if I could start all over, I would be more confident in myself and my abilities. And instead of having people come to me with what they want me to do, I would more so show them what I'm willing to do and how we can structure that properly.
Yeah, so I would say I recently started writing blogs about what I do. So I wish that I knew that way before, so that I could have done more. The other thing is also finding clients. When I first started, I was applying hundreds of trying to get deals, but now I have a couple of people on my side who are doing that for me and taking some commission out of it. So things that I learned later. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to start pivoting over to questions. Oh, wait, I lied. I do have one more question about freelancing. What are platforms, resources, things that people can click on that they can find clients or get started in freelancing or contracting? Where do you find the contracts? Where do you find the people who want to freelance for you? I know we mentioned Upwork, or what are other platforms?
You said not Upwork?
Oh, I mean, if there's Upwork is the only one
Yeah,
that you're.
so
but
it's not the only one I would say, but even LinkedIn, I mean, if you have a service or a product you're selling, I would say put it out there, have your own website even, and reach out to people, even on LinkedIn. These days, LinkedIn is a big one, right? And I think it's even the most effective one that you can find a business or a deal. So if you're not comfortable with going with freelance marketplace or things like that.
Piggybacking off of that, if you want to be more social media direct, you can also create a business social media Instagram. The reason why I like Instagram, not over LinkedIn, because I do like LinkedIn more, but when you're doing freelancing, a lot of your first customers will either be people you know or adjacent to people you know. So you need to connect to people you know where you already are. If someone is coming to you and they know you from Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and now you're saying, oh, look at my LinkedIn, and you don't even post on LinkedIn yourself, they're like, okay, is this person credible? What's going on here? So try to be, going back to the community talk, when you're trying to build yourself, try to build yourself horizontally within people you know, and then you can scale from there. But if you are looking for another marketplace where people find freelancers directly, there's another one called Fiverr, which I use a lot.
I would say, tying back to what Emmanuel said about your first customers are probably going to be people you know. Honestly, ask your family members, hey, you're trying to go into marketing, do you know, somebody that cooks, I don't know, caters for parties, hey, do you have an Instagram, do you have a Facebook, can I make one for you? My first customer for marketing was my mom. She's a fashion designer, and I ended up working on her Instagram for a while, and that was something you can add to your portfolio because nobody's going to know that that's your family member. So this is more geared to students. Another thing I would say would be, on TikTok, just type marketing intern hiring, marketing contractor hiring. You'd be shocked about the amount of jobs that would come up on TikTok. And most of the time, if they're on TikTok, they're looking for, someone of a younger age to kind of, work for them. So, and those jobs probably wouldn't be posted on LinkedIn. So the applicant pool is already significantly lower. Yeah.
I hope y'all are taking notes. All right, we're going to transition to talking about being a founder / leader. So if you're not necessarily a founder, but you're a leader of organization, you can put that within the context of these questions. But the first question is, in 60 seconds or less, can you describe what made you start your found found your startup, my bad, or take a leadership position? And what was a pivotal moment that drew you to it and made you like, I need to do this?
Okay, I'll take that one. So I come from a family of artists. Um, Everybody can draw, everybody can write, everybody can play an instrument except for me. So with that said, I was always good at like math and science in high school and things of that nature. And most people who are good in those fields, you definitely hear more than once, oh, you should do engineering when you get into college. So I'm like, okay, cool, but I don't want to go to college. So what I did was teach myself how to code and how to build things. So the thing is, when I started building things, I felt the same passion I feel like my family's members felt when they created things. Because at the end of the day, you are creating something. If you're able to ship the product, you are able to give your creation out to the masses. So what drove me to be a startup founder is that same passion to create and to give my creations out to the public. And then on top of that, since I have been in engineering, software engineering now for the past 7 years, I was able to, get out all the technical sides of that. Another thing I found out while starting my startup is I'm a really good engineer, but I am a terrible marketer. You can't be good at everything. You have to know when to delegate and when to reach out. So that's pretty much how I got started with that.
I know some other people might want to jump in, but I want to dig a little deeper into that. So you didn't go to college. You ended up teaching yourself how to program. Tell me how that was like, and what was the process and method of how you taught yourself how to program?
Sure, no problem. So full disclaimer, I did college for 3 semesters, and then I said, this isn't for me. In that third semester, I think I was like 19 years old, and during that break, I did not leave the house for 4 months. No exaggeration. And basically, my most valuable resource at that time, being 19, working minimum wage, I didn't know a lot of resources. I wouldn't say I didn't have a lot of resources, but I definitely didn't know a lot of resources. So the number one resource I went to was YouTube. To be completely fair, you don't have to pay for YouTube. You don't have to do anything of that nature. But everything you need, projects, tutorials, courses, anything of that nature you need is already available for you for free. Obviously, there's other courses you can pay for, such as Udemy, and things of that nature, right? It's been a while since I've done that, but you need to find out how to be resourceful, and if you don't know how, you should definitely if you know how to use social media, you should find people who have done something similar to what you want to do, and never be afraid to reach out, never be afraid to really put yourself out there. So yeah, for me to land my first junior position as an engineer, it took me, from not knowing anything about coding, it took me 5 months of not going outside, just staying in the house and building projects like I talked about earlier, building up my portfolio, doing games, doing regular mobile development, and then from there, honestly, I want to say one last thing. All it takes is that first job. All it takes is that one person to say, I'm going to hire you, and from there, you can just take that to the moon, really.
One more breakout question before we go talk about founders again. For people who might be interested in like learning a new skill or teaching some how to code, and they want to go on YouTube, like where do they start? Do they want to start building a project? I always tell people try to learn a skill, not a language. So like, what are some skills that you think are essential to start off with, or how somebody can try to structure some type of YouTube course for themselves?
So I 100% agree with learn a skill, not a language. But more times than not, when you go down that path, you will then end up specializing in something, which is great, which is what jobs are looking for somebody who specializes in something. So one of the first things I built outside of the gaming was something very simple. I built a calculator, right? And I was able to build that on an Android device using Java. So from there, you learn. So while building that, I learned Java, right? And it transitions from that to YouTube actually has playlists that are full-on courses. So you don't have to jump from this video to this guy. If you see somebody you don't like their teaching style, there's hundreds of courses no matter what you want. If you want to do web development, mobile development, back-end development, there's people who are dedicating their YouTube channel to teaching this. And once you find the person who has the style that you like or who uses the tools and technologies that you're interested in, just follow them all the way through.
Yeah, just to add, I want to say like you already know more than you think, and I found that that's the hard way. So just today now you also have like ChatGPT, which can summarize information quickly, which was really like very hard like 5 years ago. So take advantage of it. It's a very exciting time. You can get ideas, summarize things, organize your ideas. And as you know, there's a lot of resources out there. YouTube is always a good one. I always go and unlearn. And for me, I always like breaking the rules. Always go break the rules. I always enjoy teaching. I taught at the school. And when I first started my first full-time job, I was like, okay, 9-to-5 jobs, somebody's always telling you, hey, I need this and I need that, which is really good. And I was like, oh, okay, so how would I think about like maybe going on my own side and just, think like if I can do something out of my comfort zone, right? So just do something, and I can assure you that you already know more than you think. It's just only like taking that and applying it to a problem, right? So what I'm doing right now, I can see hundreds of people that I already know that can do way better than me. But I just only started and organized it and did it, right? I know that they knew way better than me. So you already know a lot. You already have the skills. There are people out there who just know CSS and HTML, right? That you maybe probably know more than them, who are actually like helping businesses, doing some stuff. So just to throw out there.
I would also like to say that with regards to learning a skill, something you don't know or have little knowledge about, my first step would be just to go on YouTube and search up like the fundamentals. So first of all, learn the basics, have a strong foundation, and then you can go ahead and like follow tutorials and jump into projects. I would say just don't follow the projects to the end, but add your own little twist. So for example, if you're learning HTML and you made like your first web page, the background was blue, go ahead and explore other hex codes, change the background to, I don't know, green. Start from somewhere, make those little modifications so on the way you're also learning, not just following tutorials from beginning to end and not really learning much. Yeah.
I love that because it also adds a bit of ambiguity to it that you have to figure out yourself. So in a nutshell, one, YouTube, Udemy, Coursera, all great resources. YouTube is a little less structured if you want a structured course from end to end to Udemy and Coursera, but start by learning the basics. Have a skill in mind that you may want to learn or some type of project you want to build, and engage in project-based learning, if I were to put this all in a nutshell. Transitioning back to Founders Talk, because that's how we're originally talking about, but I felt like that was too important not to talk about. The question, to reiterate, was described let me look at it one more time. What was a pivotal moment that led to the creation of your own venture or taking up a leadership position in any organization / startup?
So at my school, I'm the president of the African Student Association, kind of mentioned that already. But for me, I would say I just wanted to see more promotion of African culture on campus. That was it. Like, I'm Nigerian, grew up in Nigeria, lived there for 15 years and moved here. So my culture is something that's very important to me. And I knew there was a big African community on campus, but, we didn't really see ourselves unless, met someone or knew someone who knew someone. So being able to take up that role, made the events a little better, a little bigger. I was able to, just do that. So
Great. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me as a startup founder, it ties back to me wanting to create. So 2 years ago was my first Afrotech conference, and when I got there was so many individuals in similar spaces that I was in. I went to one meetup and it was just founders all throughout, and I'm like, yo, I could definitely do this. So when I got back home, I was like, okay, what do I want to build? What am I passionate about? And I knew I already possessed the technical skills. Like I said, I've been doing software engineering for the better half of the decade. Um, and so I just was brainstorming what can I build, what can I scale, and what am I passionate about. Once all those three things came together, and I was able to create a business plan for that, I went out and I built it, built an MVP, which is a minimal viable product. Showed that to a couple of my friends and colleagues. They loved it, and from there it's just about how can we continue to scale and how can we continue to build and how can we continue to reach out to people who will be interested in our product.
So it seems like, one, you need to see a need and address a need. And then two, you have to be passionate and willing or have the drive to want to build something. And sometimes putting yourself in spaces where there's a lot of other people who are striving to do the same thing can inspire you to be more than that. I want to break it down. Let's say like somebody within the crowd has an idea. How do you take that idea and bring it from zero and build it up into something that's tangible, holdable, seeable, a true, viable company?
So I want to say there's a two-step part of it. The first step is able to break things down to the simplest form, and the second step is being able to be resourceful and knowing how to delegate. Let me go deeper into both of those. So when I say being able to break things down, so the first thing I did was a flow chart for, okay, what would be the first thing I want my users to see? What is the most value I want them to get out of this? And then on top of that, how can we scale further? So if you want to make a flow chart for something similar, you want to get out of your idea stage. You have to be able to write these things down and just break them up into the different segments and focus on a segment. Sometimes when you have an idea that you're so passionate about or is so big to you, you consistently look at the big picture. That's great, but you should also be able to break things down into smaller parts. That's how anything gets completed. That's like, for instance, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the assembly line with Ford, but he revolutionized the industrial environment by able to break things down into specific parts, and then from there you're able to complete, and in his case, the car. The second part I was talking about was resourcefulness and the ability to delegate. Let's say you're not technical. I know most people in here are CS students, so most of you guys are technical, but in the case that you are not technical, you have to be able to find someone who can, maybe not a mentor, but at least guide you in the sense of what you're going to create from a technical aspect. So with that said, you have to find someone who's willing to design. You have to find someone who's willing to write the code if you're doing a technology product. Or you may even find somebody who's in a similar field as you, and from there you're able to ask them questions. Okay, how do I get started with this? Things of that nature. Once again, that's just social media and being able to put yourself out there.
Cool. I'll also add on that I highly recommend that you guys participate in hackathons. I think it's a great way to really like build an idea in breakneck speed because you're there for like 2 days, you're locked in, you're there with 3 other people or maybe more, and you're really forced to like think about this idea end to end. How is it going to generate revenue? How do we think about this in the next 5 years? Like, what is the technologies that we're going to implement with it? Who's our target audience? What's our market size? All that other stuff. Things you probably want to just think about, and they have it in a rubric, so you'll be able to guide you with it. Then other people have like other experiences with other hackathons who could be able to guide you as well and mentors around. I would also say that when you have an idea, a lot of times people focus it around a solution. And that's cool and all, but think about if you're married to the solution, you're never going to think beyond more innovative ways to approach things, right? So always think about it within the frame of what problem am I solving for? And then you can branch out many different solutions. So if you found that, okay, one solution isn't really solving the problem, go back to problem, think of more solutions. You should never be married to one solution initially. When you're first in the ideation phase, you should be married to the problem. If you're not married to the problem, that means you're not passionate enough to actually work on the problem. I want to ask one more question about startups, about what are some challenges in being a startup founders, and how can somebody navigate the ambiguity of starting their own thing?
I'll take it. There's a lot of problems. So right now I'm trying to think of which one do I want to speak on the most. So from a technical side versus a business side, you need to be aware of, you can build the best thing ever, but if you don't know how to get that information or that product out to your direct consumers, it doesn't mean much, right? So you need to be able to, like I was speaking on before, you need to be able to delegate different things. You need to be able to delegate the technical side. You need to be able to delegate the marketing side. You need to be able to delegate the business side, the business structure. How are we going to generate revenue? How are we going to get our product in front of the people we wanted to see? Are we going to put it on Facebook? Are we going to put it on Instagram? Are we going to put it on TikTok? Are we going to go directly to college campuses and have and do some sponsorship there? As if you're the lone person on that project, you have to be able to either, one, bring a team together for people who are passionate enough, or you need to be able to hire freelancers who may be able to do that on a remote side, or you really sometimes you really just have to be a foot soldier and get out there and market it and do what you have to do by yourself. A lot of the times in the beginning it's like that, but the most important thing and the most important challenge you have to overcome is being able to know when you can't do it all by yourself, and being able to know when it's time to reach out to different people to help bring this problem, the solution you have, to fruition.
Another thing I want to add is that I think being a college student is one of the best times, or being a student in general is one of the best times to actually start up some initiative or company or organization, because a lot of the people around you are probably going to be as driven, or like, you know, you guys are studying the same thing, similar skill sets, and you guys have the time. You know, like, you guys are probably working like jobs, probably like, you know, not too much pay, right? So it's like there's no reason why you shouldn't want to do a startup. It's a good plus on your resume, leadership experience, and all these things. I feel like when people transition into like post graduation and start working full time, they're making good salaries. Like, why would I do this? Right? I'm already getting paid. So you want me to work at a startup that's probably not gonna take off, waste my time. But as a college student, you do have a lot of time. So reach out to your peers, talk to them. They would probably want to come on board. So nothing to lose too. So yeah.
I'll also add that college is probably one of the prime times where you're going to be around a lot of different people in the community. Once you like graduate, you usually move off to a new city, you start fresh, you won't be as like locked in with like everybody. In college, there's like literally like thousands of people around your age, all in the same place, and you guys are seeing each other every day. It's not really another experience like that. So with such a large community, that's your target audience right there. You can definitely take advantage of that. And like Blossom said, partner with people who are also like-minded as you, who want to advance to the next level. I want to open up for audience questions soon. But I wanted to know, what are some of the support systems, mentorship, community resources that have been instrumental in you guys' success?
For mentorship, I would recommend ADP List. So what it is kind of like a social media platform. Go on there. There are different categories, so like software engineering, fintech, startups, VC-backed, marketing, design, and you can meet different people in different fields on there. You can select a person, look at their portfolio, look at their profession, look at their experience, and see if that's somebody that you would want to probably be like, or somebody you want to mentor you. And you can just go ahead and book a session. On there, it's kind of like Calendly, but just more organized, and you can see like everyone. So that's where I found my mentor, and she's been of great help. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like even meetups, right? You know, in your area, just look people who you share commonality, right, interests, goals, right, and go for your free time. Also, if you're going to school, there are many events happening always, so always go. I would really recommend that. Other than that, I would say also like, you know, LinkedIn, right? If you don't have LinkedIn, please do, because it's a very fantastic platform, right, for more learning and also for opportunities.
All right. We got audience questions. Any questions from the audience? Do not be shy. Great. My bad, I was kind of short.
Hi, my name is Jamar John. Oh, this is a microphone. Hi, my name is Jamar Johnson. I'm a freshman at NIU, majoring in computer science, of course. My question is for Blossom. You talked about all the internships you had throughout your college career, and I just want to ask, how important was your GPA when applying for them?
I would say maintaining a good GPA is important, like, merits, scholarships. With regards to internships, there are some companies that place an importance in GPA, but some companies don't ask. It's still a good thing to add on, but like I said, I've been at a couple of good number of startups and also big tech companies, and like Emmanuel said, they care more about your skills and what you can actually bring to the company. GPA is important. Some job postings might have like a cutoff of like at least a 3.0 or 3.2, so still keep your GPA up. Can unlock other opportunities for you, but internships, I would say a good GPA, like a 4.0, doesn't guarantee you an internship if you don't have the skills. That's the honest truth. Because you can excel in academia doesn't mean you're going to excel in the real world or like the workforce. Yeah. But still keep it up, please.
All right. So my name is Caleb. I'm in my third year in college at Southeast Missouri State. So my question is, essentially, if you're not getting the knowledge in the classroom, and like if you don't like the structure of YouTube videos, is boot camps a good idea? If to probably just trying to get that general knowledge, skills, and trying to pick up on maybe some programming languages?
I would say boot camps are valuable, but the cost to the value isn't the. To me, I wanna say this isn't everyone's viewpoint, but I do want to say the cost to the value you get may not be the best. I feel like as an individual, being as resourceful as you can be is one of the best skills you can have. If you don't like YouTube structures, you don't like the content that you're getting in class, you have to find a way to get that. You got to get it out the mud, for real. You have to find a way to get the information that you need. Whatever way that is, if it does end up being boot camps and you feel like you've researched the boot camp and the boot camp teaches, and you think the boot camp will teach what you learn, go for it. It's expensive, but definitely go for it. But before that, try to be as efficient as you can be with the resources that are available to you. It's almost infinite these days.
I'll add on real quick. We might want to talk to Terrell McKinney. He's going to do the interview prep workshop later this afternoon. He went through a boot camp, and he currently works at Angie's List. I concur with what Emmanuel said, as in boot camps are very expensive, but for people who may need that structure, or what boot camps are also useful for the networking afterwards, like boot camps that are well connected might be able to connect you with opportunities after you graduate from SAG boot camp, because if you get a job, that helps them out too. So it does depend what boot camp you go to. Make sure you do your research into what might be the best opportunity for you. Fair?
Hi, I just want to chime in. My name is Vera. I have also done a couple boot camps in regards to data science. To the cost, that is absolutely very important, because there is a lot of boot camps that are out and about now that are the worth and cost of a college degree, and it's for a short-term time. But I would definitely look at Udacity. I would definitely look in regards to seeing other organizations that might have like specific niche boot camp styles that you could be able to get scholarships in. I agree. If it's not free, it's not for me. But also looking at like Coursera or other places to be able to also get those skills. Another opportunity that I do also say is volunteering. Volunteering can get you a lot of hands-on skills. It is a different type of environment, but also with networking, you can also use that and leverage that to be able to traverse yourself to where you want to go to.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is John Michael. I'm a senior at NEIU. Just a question in terms of applications and how things are going. I mean, when we do start to apply, they do ask certain languages. Now, from your experiences, I'm sure you guys have well-rounded experience. What did you find? Which programming language was one of the best suited because each concentration, whether it's data science, of course, Python, and for more object-oriented, it would be like Java and stuff. So which language did you find easier for you guys to do in the interview?
I would say Python. I say Python all the time. If you need to learn a language, Python should be probably one of the first. It's very close to pseudocode, which is just like writing out your, I'm sure you guys know what pseudocode is, but basically English, like it's not too many, like the syntax is close to English, so learning Python. And when you're in the interview, you get a question, you already know what you want to do. It's so much easier to put it down in Python when it's like close to English as opposed to like thinking of syntax. Oh, C++, how do I write a for loop? You forget a comma, you forget a semicolon, and then your code doesn't run, and it's like, you're under so much pressure. I think just using Python would make your life 10 times easier, and it's a pretty easy language to pick up. That was the first language I learned, and I still use it till today. So.
Yeah, I would say Python is a very good language, but in general, I would say just pick a language and be good at it, right? I use R for everything, right? From data analysis to deploying and building applications, right? And I've been doing that for almost 8 years now, and I can do everything with it, right? So instead of just like maybe learning multiple languages or things like that, I wouldn't really like discourage it, but I would say like focus on one language that can encompass everything that you're trying to accomplish, right? And be very good at it. And if I was interviewing you and you know that language, you can do whatever you want with it, I wouldn't really have a problem. The industry, they don't really have, and other than that, in data science, I would say R if you're good at it, or Python, and SQL is always a must.
If you're going into a software engineering role and you feel like the interview will have any algorithm-specific questions, just grind leak code in one language, man. Or grind HackerRank in one language, or wherever platform that has algorithm problems on there. Me personally, I like Kotlin. Some of you guys may or may not be familiar with that language. I love Kotlin. It's very syntactically nice. It's similar to Java, but just the syntax is way better. Or TypeScript. But yeah, it doesn't matter the language. What matters is, it shouldn't matter, but what does matter is how good can you solve these algorithms with whatever language you want. Python, it does not matter, dude. Just stick one and grind it out, because then you don't even have to think about it anymore.
So in my day-to-day work, I use Java, but I actually never formally learned Java in like any class or course. Once you kind of like know one programming language, it's easy to transition once you're on the job. So definitely when it comes to interviewing, like pick one that you're comfortable with. But I also advise don't just use a programming language because you think it'll be easier in the interviews. Because again, like think about the usability, how you're going to apply what you're learning. So if you want to do web development, but you're learning C++, like that might not be the best, most intuitive thing for you. You might want to learn JavaScript and get good at JavaScript. And JavaScript is pretty much like Python when it comes to like readability and all that, right? So like, yes, technically Python is easier, but maybe JavaScript might be more useful for you. So just really think about how do I want to apply this skill? Because like regardless, with enough practice, you're going to get good at it, and you're going to be able to code switch between languages eventually anyways. So just think about where you can actually start and build projects to even get to that interview stage. Any other questions? We got one up here who hasn't asked a question, so throw it up to him first. Oh, we're handing it. I like that.
Hi, my name is Eddie Jones. I'm a junior at Chicago State University. My question is, what was the process like with finding your niche? And Blossom, I know you're still in school, so what is the process like with either you knowing what you want to do, or you still finding out what you want to do?
I still don't know my niche up to now, I'll be very honest. I'm just always trying different things, always trying new things. I didn't really get into marketing until I actually started college, and I couldn't, it was like hard for me to land a software engineering role after my first year, so I just tried to find something I could do during the summer, just so I didn't waste that summer. But just trying different things, like this is one of my first times ever doing this like public speaking thing, so just try different things, learn different skills. There are a lot of opportunities you get as a college student that you will not get after you graduate, so just continue to explore. So hopefully by the end of my senior year, I know exactly what I want to do. But yeah, just try different things.
I would say that I'm going to piggyback off of that. Get your feet wet with a lot of different experiences. It's not necessarily about finding out what your niche is. It's about finding out what it is not. So narrowing it down. So like through my internships, I really realized I do not like front end engineering at all. Like I despise it, hate it. But I would have never known that if I never did a front end project. And then I also had a full stack project, I had a back end project, and I'm like, oh, between the three of these, I like back end the most. Now, do I still feel like back end? Do I wake up every day like, oh boy, I just can't wait to do some back end engineering? No, but I am. I do like what I do, and I felt like if it wasn't for the multiple experience I had, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint what it is. So, get your feet wet with a lot of stuff.
Going off of that, when you're still in the idea phase, like I said, the way I started is I wanted to create games. I thought I was going to be a game developer. I haven't created a game in 7 years. So when you start creating anything or when you start working on projects, it's gonna directly lead you into what you like the most. Right now, I'm a full stack engineer. I work on every end, front end, back end, but don't do front end. That's the first thing I'm gonna tell you. Like front end is really annoying. So
You might like it though.
Yeah, I like.
you
the
might
front
like
end.
it, but come on, who
I
likes
think
who likes
front end is cool.
Really,
Ex-
design.
Yeah, especially working with UX, UI designers who are indecisive, and you think you're finished, but you're not. Anyways, we're getting off topic. We're gonna take 3 more questions. Put your hands up if you had a question. I know we had some hands. We're gonna go all the way in the back room. Sorry, I know we're avoiding you, but you asked a question earlier, so I want to spread the love. And then we're gonna go to you next. And is there a number 3 who wanted a question? Yeah, for sure. All right, so 1, 2, 3. That's the order of how we're passing it. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So, how you doing? My name is Sam Magoye. I'm a senior at Olivet Nazarene University, and this is a question for anyone on the panel. At what point does it kind of click? I know, like Emmanuel, you said you taught yourself the language or taught yourself how to code. Like, at what point does it click and it makes sense? Like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and I can actually apply it to an actual company.
Okay, so even when you're at your first company, you're still gonna have imposter syndrome. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong though, but I had imposter syndrome for like at least my first 5 years. But prior to getting your first job, you have to be able to just jump in the water even if it's freezing cold. If you're resourceful enough, you will be able to teach yourself when you get the job or on the job. Don't think you're gonna go into the job saying, yeah, I could do everything. You more than likely, I know I couldn't. So never be afraid to, when you're there, ask questions. Be friends with the lead engineer or the senior engineer or your managers. If you're in a space where you feel like people are welcoming, it feels good to teach others. So don't ever look at yourself as, oh, I'm being too annoying, I'm asking too many questions. If you're in a welcoming space, people want to teach, people want the industry to be better, people want good engineers on their team. So if you think that your leading engineer doesn't want you to be good, trust me, they want you to be as good as you can be so they can do less work. So just always be willing to ask questions and always be willing to be resourceful. But as far as feeling like it clicked, it definitely takes a while. Even when you feel like it clicked, you may regress and like, oh, I don't know as much as I think I know. But as long as you're able to be resourceful and ask questions and get the information you need some way, somehow, especially with ChatGPT out these days, just jump in the water, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, for me, so I studied statistics, which means that at the school they don't really teach coding. So I taught it myself all in. So most of the time I think it's like, experimented with different problems, right? So if you can tackle different problems and get feedback from maybe like, staff engineers or lead people that you have, so that would be always like useful and give you like a boost that, for me, I've done, a lot in Kaggle. I don't know if some of you know Kaggle. Kaggle really boosted because there's a lot of like variety of problems, right? And people are so generous that they can even give you the code, and you can go and experiment with it. So there's a lot of resources out there. Try different problems, right? And if you can tackle with that language with different problems, right? And then always look for new problems. You'll never be like the expert, right?
I'll make it quick because I want to have time for the next two questions. There's going to be slight moments where like it clicks. Like, I mean, the first one for me, a Hello World, I was like, oh wow, I'm a programmer now, right? And there's going to be multiple instances where like, oh, this makes sense now. So like, I definitely think like always cherish the small wins. Like, there's no win that's too small not to cherish, and appreciate your path and journey, because for every small win, there's going to be a big humbling. But the more wins you rack up is going to get you over the next hump. I don't know how to explain it, as in like, when I first started programming, I wasn't really sure of myself, and I didn't even apply to Google till I was literally forced to by my professor. Then the day of the deadline, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And then I ended up getting interviews. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm the big man now. Walked into Google with my chest held high. And I was like, wow, first like month and a half, I have no idea what is going on or what I'm doing, So there's going to be a lot of wins. There's going to be a lot of losses in your journey. Just keep going forward is my advice with it. Don't give up on it. And you can toss it to the next person. Guy right there, yeah.
So my question is, how is the technical interview process, and is using LeetCode, I don't know if, is using LeetCode helpful for that?
Definitely. I don't like the landscape of technical interviews in the software engineering space right now, but it is what it is. So definitely using LeetCode. I have hundreds of LeetCode problems done right now. So just grind it out. Maybe 2 months. Always do all the easy ones first, and then learn the concepts of them, rather than learning the exact algorithm. Learn what the algorithm is trying to teach you, for what type of problem it's trying to solve. So learn those concepts in easy mode, and then throughout the weeks, just migrate into medium. The hard ones are almost kind of impossible these days, but definitely all the easy and medium ones. Some of the hard ones, but just grind it out. There's also better platforms than LeetCode. Off the top of my head, I don't know them, but you can find them. I know HackerRank is really, really good. So definitely jump on there. It's more interactive rather than you're just staring at a screen. And also, don't be afraid to look at the solutions. Maybe that's the first thing I do. Look at the solutions and then rewrite it in either in your own language, or once again, ChatGPT it, understand it, and then try to find other problems within that same category, because that's how you apply the general solution that they're trying to do, but not the exact same code. That's the most important thing. So grind it out.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with Emmanuel. I also wanted to say another resource would be NeetCode. So it's basically just, it's a YouTube channel. I know he also has a website, but YouTube channel is what I use, and it's the solutions to all the problems. So he basically walks you through everything. So reading the actual problem, reasoning it out, drawing diagrams so you actually absorb and understand it, and then he also does the solutions. But I believe most of the solutions are in Python, but you can obviously adapt it to other languages. So
That's actually really good, because not everybody learns the same way. You may be a visual learner or auditory learner. So definitely, if you want to hear somebody talk it out and reason it that way, YouTube will probably be the best way to go for that.
I don't want to add too much because we do got an interview prep workshop later. I don't want to steal Terrell's thunder, but I will say that there's a thing called the Blind 75 on LeetCode, which I haven't personally used, but I've heard great things about it from other people who've gotten good positions. And it encompasses all the different types of data structures and algorithms that you may encounter in a technical interview. And it's like a sheet, like a burn down sheet, so you can really just grind it out. There's also a really good article, I believe, it's called the 13 Patterns to Ace Any Coding Interview Question. Half the battle in a coding interview is determining what type of data structure needs to be used to solve the problem. So if you're able to determine, this needs a linked list, boom, you already solved half of the problem. And I think lastly, the most important thing is mock interviewing. And I think it's a most overlooked thing from all computer science majors. All y'all want to do is grind leak code, but it's not about knowing the information. Interviewing is like your marketing. You're marketing yourself as the best candidate, right? So in order to do that, you need to be able to talk about your expertise, not just know things. Because when you're in the game mode, sometimes you freeze up, right? Mock interviewing is important because one, you're going to get caught off guard more. You're familiar with your own set of questions. People practice with different sets of questions. You're going to be caught off guard way more. But two, you have to stay in character. Well, a good mock interview will stay in character no matter how hot the seat gets. So you're used to working in ambiguity. That way, when it actually comes to the interview, you're able to keep a cool head no matter how nervous you get because you've been there before. And then also, you're really good at articulating. Interviewing is not just about knowing. Like, sometimes you need to stop. Hey, can I have 1 minute to think about this? Narrowing down the question, practicing asking how to narrow down a question. Leak code, sometimes you just go in and solve it. Technical interview, you have to understand what they're asking you, why they're asking you, and then how to solve it, right? So saying that out loud, you need to keep practicing that. Once you understand the information, I would say just mock interview for like 2 weeks. Use Pramp, PRAMP.com. I never use it, but one of my good friends used it a lot to mock interview. I personally used Calendly to put all the times I was available, and I dropped it inside of like tech community chats within like my college and other things that I was a part of. Okay, that's all. Next question.
Hi again. My name is Jamar. Anybody can answer this question. So something important to me is being able to actually enjoy my life. So I wanted to know, what is the work-life balance like in the industry?
So I can only speak from the perspective of an intern. So this summer I was in Seattle interning, and honestly I had pretty good work-life balance. I didn't like Seattle, but I had a lot of free time. Spent a lot of time with other interns, making connections, making friends. And even on like my team, my manager was super chill. He didn't really he wasn't monitoring us, making sure we're clocking in at 8 a.m. Like, he didn't care. His thing was get the work done, meet your deadlines, and make sure you're you complete your intern project. So I think it really just depends on your team, honestly. Like, I know some people that had to clock in at 9 a.m. and if they didn't clock in at 9, they couldn't put in 8 hours for the day. So it just depends. But for me, I was good.
Something that's more so like when you're in the field or you're in a certain project that's really benefited me is trying to get a task done as quickly as possible. The reason for that is if you could get it, let's say, I don't know if you guys are familiar with sprints or anything like that. Let's say you have a 2-week sprint and you have like 3 tasks, but you get all those tasks done within 3 days. Honestly, man, your work-life balance will be great because the rest of the time, if you're not pulling in additional work, you're chilling. Or you're able to finesse like, oh, yeah, no, I got a couple more things to work on, even though you're already done, and now you're just doing your own thing, you know? So work-life balance, you can actually dictate how that's going to go for you depending on how quickly you could get your work done and the structure of the company, of course. So that's pretty much that.
Also, sometimes, well, it sounds like you don't have to deal with that, but sometimes your lack of work-life balance might stem from imposter syndrome, the need to try to prove yourself or work harder. I know definitely doing my first internship, pretty much lived at office, which is somewhat of the trap of Google. I know some of y'all was on a tour yesterday and y'all was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of things here. But the idea is to get us here comfortable and working longer and harder. Because in the San Francisco office, in the Bay Area offices, you can actually quite literally live there. Like this office compared to that one, you'll be surprised. But you need to set boundaries for yourself. One, you need to understand, oh yeah, I know. I'm going over on purpose because I'll tell you in the setting. But I'm wrapping it up. One, know you're there for a reason. Believe in your ability to do things. Two, optimize your day. Put your phone away. I usually put my phone like in a hole inside my car. Sometimes I don't even bring it to work because it's like if I'm done earlier, that's better. I can do things I want to do. And lastly, it does depend on your manager, your team culture, and all that. So like everybody's experience differs. Luckily, I've been on teams where the culture has been like, you can get what you need to get done, and you're able to time box things for yourself. You don't have to be at office exactly at 9 o'clock as long as you get your work done. Okay, guys. Any last goodbyes?
Yeah, I would say lead code is still very relevant. But for my experience, what I would do is basically I'll list the top companies that I'm interested in, and then I'll just go to Glassdoor and see what people are asking, right? And then I get those topics, and I just try to find, resources that I learn. I think that's the most effective way and you can nail it, in that process. So that's always the technique that I use, right? I always research the company, and then I go to Glassdoor and see what people are, are asking, and then for those topics, I find maybe a Medium or even LinkedIn or articles or things like that.
Awesome. Everybody give up for our amazing panelists. Thank you guys so much for your insights. So I'm going to remix the program a little bit. I went over on purpose because I see the food came a little early, and I know it's some soul food, so we might get the itis. So I want to do the interactive activity after we get some food in our stomachs, and plus it's been a long morning. So feel free to walk over, grab something to bite, something to drink, sit down, network, and then we're going to get started at like the 1:15 mark or so. All right, guys.
That's good. I cry, I'm sure, but my dreadlocks.